Hello everyone, Scientier here with Making Astral Collision, and I'm going to continue the thing that I was doing last time, where I did a bunch of stuff off camera and will now give you a summary, because, well, I haven't had enough time to get any feedback on it yet because I have a buffer, and I feel that it makes more watchable videos, probably. So, let's go ahead and go into things. So the big thing that I worked on this past bit of time has been getting a bunch of stuff filled in. I've gotten notably several more enemies made. I've been thinking some about that. So this actually kind of goes back to, if I go over to this guy, world information, I have these different zones, right? So I've been thinking some about what sort of enemies should show up in each location. So I've been working on the Kendra areas, and I think that most of the enemies here are going to be more of the monster variety. This is going to be very physical, just wild beast monster type things. So I've made a few different enemies here with just different stuff going on. I still have these giant rats, and I'm probably going to tweak a little bit of numbers on them at some point in time. But so these guys have, their stats of hit rates and a chance to poison you. They deal piercing damage. They have some resistances to some types of damage, some weaknesses to others. I'll probably tweak those at some point in time. But I'm kind of okay with where they're at for the time being. I added giant bats, which are very evasive, so they'll generally take less damage and may even be able to dodge stuff. They have a very good crit rate. They can deal a good bit of damage, but their accuracy is a little bit lower. And they're very fragile, with pretty low HP. And they have some weaknesses and stuff. I've added, I'm calling them devil hens, because this is the sprites, the cockatrice is what they call it here, but it's basically a crazy chicken. And that name kind of flowed better than devil rooster or something. They have a crazy crit rate. And they also start having more abilities. So I've added Blitz, the giant bat, so it can potentially attack everybody. These guys are kind of nasty because they'll use Sickening Soil on occasion, although it doesn't come up a whole lot. Mostly these things, I probably need to tweak them because I don't feel like they've done a whole lot. I might need to make them bulkier. But they can hit really hard because they have a good hit rate and their evasion against regular attacks. Basically, I'm just setting up a bunch of stats. And I'll kind of tweak things as I go. Harrowers are supposed to be kind of one of the more difficult enemies. They notably are resistant to quite a few different things. So they're a little bit weak to slashing damage, which actually makes them not too bad to take care of, because there's a lot of slashing damage. And speaking of slashing damage, I have worked on a few weapon formulas. So I have added the flail. You can see right here, its formula, basically the low end deals a quarter of the damage of the high end. But the basic formula is 1.66 times the sum of the strength and dex plus 34. This just worked out to kind of give the same sort of numbers at base level, actually. It's probably better just go over to here and go to weapon planning. So, flail, I'll need to see how it kind of goes long term. But its formula, you can see, it's 25 to 100, which is where it had been initially. But if you have, say, up to 60 strength, it jumps up a bit and whatnot. It may or may not get too strong. That's something I'm going to have to look at and sort of process. The axe also is one that I'm not quite sure how it's going to kind of work. You'll notice its numbers are a little bit lower. This deals half the amount of the upper. But this is strength multiplied by a crazy formula with 100 added in. So practically speaking, what this means is that dex has a bit of an effect on this. If I jump up to 200 dex, you can see that the axe goes up to 177 on the high-end damage. Strength has a much stronger effect, so if that goes up to 200, you can see that jumps up quite a bit. I'm not 100% sure exactly where I wanted it, but I definitely want strength to be the more important stat for the axe. The whip I decided to just leave as it was, so that's just dexterity plus 20 or 40. What I like about this setup for it is that it will just get closer. It'll it'll get more consistent as damage the higher your dex goes, because there's percentagely less difference between the upper and lower bound. The staff I also just kind of left as it was. It just takes a single element, your stat on that on the low end and twice that on the upper end, and calls it good. And I think that's a fine place to have staves. The bow is interesting. So what I've done with the bow is I've made the low bound 20 plus whichever is bigger between your strength and your dexterity. Because the idea with a bow, like a lot of people think of a bow as a very dex-oriented weapon, and that's a little bit of a misnomer if you've learned anything about archery. Like, having good dexterity, I would kind of interpret as having good accuracy. And being able to be effectively accurate with the weapon is definitely very useful and very important. But to really get effectiveness, you need strength as well, because the more powerful your bow, the more poundage it has on the string, the more strength you have to be able to pull it back. So a bow is a weapon where you kind of give it potential energy based on your own strength, and so more strength will allow it to hit harder. So what I have represented on the low end here is that you kind of get effect from your best performing stat of, are you really accurate? Well, that will help increase your minimum, and if you're really strong, then that'll help increase as well. It's kind of the way I'm playing that. And then the upper bound is just the sum of your strength and your dexterity plus 40. So, this is something where if you have really outsized difference, something like this, you can see the bow is 220 to 260. There's just not a whole lot of difference between those two parts. But if you have like 100, 100, you'll notice that there's a much greater difference. So it really wants both to kind of, it like that pushes the upper bounds more. But anyway, I thought it kind of gave it a little bit of a different take. Claws, I just liked the way that I was doing this, which is the lower one is the smallest between your strength and dex, and the upper one is your highest. And then what I've done with the katana, this is 0.7 times this one. This one's a bit peculiar. So it takes a third of your strength and then adds on your dexterity to 1.1 plus 16. So what this means is that this is an exponent, right, that slightly increases your dex in a very different sort of way than a straight multiplier. So a bit of strength will absolutely help. Like, this jumps the katana up when I go to 200, right? It jumps it up from 50 to 110. But your dexterity has a much stronger impact, and this jumps it up all the way up to 362. But you'll notice that by using that exponent there, I'm getting a slightly different behavior than if I was just doing a raw multiplier. So it grows a little bit more aggressively. So if I put this at 100, I get up to 181 and stuff. But it's a small enough exponent that it doesn't grow that much. So I've added a few more stuff with weapons. Part of the reason why is because I've been doing some playtesting with enemies. So I have... I'll show you that in just a moment. Where was I? Yes. So there's a couple of other things that I've done as well. One of the key ones is I have added a couple of items. I added a healing potion. So this restores 25% HP when you use it, and then grants 3 turns of 25% HP regen. Now keep in mind that in this game I do have an HP regeneration cap of 25%. So you can't regenerate more than 25% of your max HP from HP regen. I also added this Omnicure root, which is an item with a very slow usage speed that cures you of all conditions, which I added based on playtesting. It's mostly to be used outside of combat, so I'm not quite sure about the price point or any of this sort of stuff. I haven't really tested it a whole lot yet, but enemies spreading poison around is something that you kind of want to be able to clean up. And I've also added some states. So I finished filling out my auras. Well, there's the healing potion state for one thing, which you can see just lasts 3 turns and gives you 25% health regen. So I've added a refractive mist. So this gives you 100% chance to reflect magic, but it's 80% chance of getting destroyed when you take damage. So it's kind of a balance there. Steel Skin is the metal aura, which I've added now. It makes you slower in combat, but also means that you only take 10% of your max HP in damage. So this is kind of a protective spirit from Guild Wars 1. I was originally thinking that I was going to make this damage reduction, so like minus, I don't know, 10 damage whenever you get hit or whatever. I'd have to figure out some way that I'm scaling that, but I noticed that I had a damage cap thing implemented in there, and so I decided, oh, I'm going to go work with that instead. There's a couple of important reasons for that. First of all, damage reduction is very similar to damage absorption, which is what Water's aura already does. So I like having it more differentiated that way. And so this is a different type of thing that plays in a different space. Notably, this damage absorption is good against small amounts of damage. So, like, if damage starts getting too high, it will overwhelm this thing's effectiveness, right? That's kind of how this works. Whereas Steel Skin takes really high amounts of damage and reduces it, but it's not that great against small damage. So it plays in slightly different spaces. So I like that they're working differently. Then Warding Light is the light one. It makes you immune to debuffs and critical hits. That's what it does. So yeah, I finished fleshing those out. Let's see. There's been a few other things as well. I've begun filling out class skills. So this is the warrior, or the knight, excuse me, skill. So this is based on the Final Thrust skill in Guild Wars 1 a little bit. You can use it with swords or spears. And it deals damage based on your strength and your dex. And then it deals double damage to foes below 50% HP. So there's just some code over here that does that. Like, if their HP is below, or if their HP rate is below 0.5, then damage is doubled. Otherwise, it's just the damage. The Whammo's starting skill is a healing spell that uses 30 TP to heal. It's a life spell, so it uses wind and earth to power it. And then the Telenergist skill is MP Burn. So this is kind of like Energy Burn from Guild Wars. It just makes the opponent lose some amount of MP based on your maximum MP. But what's notable about this is that the amount of MP lost is capped by the amount of MP that they currently have. So they cannot lose more MP than they actually have. So if they are low on MP, spamming this on them will be fairly ineffective. Then they lose that MP and take damage equal to the amount of MP they lost times your fire stat. So, deals fire damage, of course. And it's called MP Burn. I had to make it deal fire damage. And then I also have done the Ninja skill, which is right here. This just does dex damage and has a pretty good chance of inflicting poison. It's a piercing attack. It's pretty straightforward. Notably, it has the certain hit property, so it cannot miss. It'll always hit the target, and that is a property that might be very useful. Okay. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to cover here? Yes. I added an inn special effect. So I want inns to all cost the same amount, and have a sort of consistency that way. So that way it's not like, oh, this inn's better than this one or whatever. So they all, right now the cost that I have for them is all $20. So if you have $20, then you can choose to rest at the inn. You spend your $20, play some inn music, heals your party, sets your last rested location, waits for the inn sound to finish playing, fades in the screen. You can see here this comment. I need to set this up to advance to morning. I'm going to need to look into how I have stuff set up with the day-night cycle things and how I can do that. If you don't have enough money, it just says, wait, you don't have enough money. This stuff right here, the last rested stuff, is used in game over handling, and it just transfers the player to wherever it was they last rested, recovers their party, and then fades the screen in. So That's this common event. This is working off of a plugin that I showed off in the first episode. Okay, there's been a few other small things. So, like, for example, I set the last rested information in the introduction now. Let's zoom in here. So I just, at the start of this, I just set it to be right here. That is your last rested location. In case you die, or you have a party wipe before that. And then I've also fleshed out the trading post here. And this is one of the other big things I did. As I went through and I made an NPC sheet for Kendra. What my plan is right now with all of this stuff, and I need to do a little bit more with Kendra, because Kendra has adventures as well. That's going to be kind of an important part of things. But what I'm planning on doing is for each of these 14 worlds, I'm planning on making an NPC sheet. So what I mean by that is if I go here to NPCs Kendra, you can see that I have 8 different NPCs. These two right here, this is the shopkeeper and the innkeeper. I'm planning on kind of having that, and then these are just like for generic NPC usage. So it's a lot of work to go through and make unique sprites for every NPC. Like you can, if you really wanted to, where you're doing little tweaks. But after a while, you're just spending a lot of time making customization. So what I instead want to do is say this world region has NPCs with these appearances and whatnot. And in this other area, you have NPCs with this set of appearances and so on and so forth. So that way what you end up having, and each of these also has a face sprite. I should show that. So you can see there's a face sprite for male, for female, geared for being different ages and things like that as well. She should probably have dark blue hair, but oh well, it is what it is. So I'm planning on making one of these for each of the different regions, taking visual cues from the heroes. So as a reminder, that's going to be the actors here. Sir Lionel, Lady Isabella, Gadagte, Esgardul. So like his people are probably all going to have that sort of skin color, that very unusual skin color. And like some of the hair colors with the Sir Lionel's area, I specifically was like, okay, these are going to be more blues and stuff. I'm not quite sure with some of these, but you can see that there's some very different appearances here. Like Calissa has wings and ashen skin. She has pointed ears and very pale skin. Her area is probably going to be mostly pale skin because they live underground. That's my thinking. Hannah has green skin, so her people are probably just going to generally have green skin. Yeah, so there's just some of that stuff. He has pink skin. So I'm going to take some clues, like he has pointed ears as well. So I'm going to take some of those visual cues of like, okay, so what if I just make a set of NPCs off of these and roll with it? And so that's kind of what my plans are that way right now. So I've done the ones for Kendra because I needed to set up a shop so I could purchase my healing potions. And for those who are wondering, by the way, what this if is doing, if you're facing up, that means you're standing down here and you're trying to purchase things. If you're facing in any other direction as the player character, that means you've wandered around to one of these 3 squares here that I'm indicating with my mouse, and you are just talking to him. And then this is the innkeeper. If you talk to her, she says hello, and then you can sleep at the inn. And this connects to this northern village here, which is over here. Yes, right up here. So that's going on. I've also adjusted it so that way I have these different compositions of enemies, and they show up in Region 1, which, as a reminder, is Kendra. It's the Kendra map zone area. So currently, it's just a generic set of enemies. I'm going to need to adjust things at some point. So as I kind of get further, I'm probably going to de-region these roads, so that way you don't encounter enemies on the roads. And I'm probably going to put a break, like... Well, I'm probably going to want to make the forest different regions than the plains. And I'm also probably going to want to, this rocky area be a different region. And I'm going to potentially... I'm going to want to make these slightly more southern areas have harder enemies. Or I might make the woods have harder enemies or something like that. Just because, like, right now when you just first start off the game, and I'll show that in a short bit here, but when you just first start off the game, the enemies can be a little bit more challenging, but as you get a few levels, they obviously become substantially easier, as one might expect. So, anyway, they're currently kind of locked to this area. Is that everything that I want to go over before I think so. So let's go ahead and pause our lovely background music and start up this, so I can kind of show some of this stuff off. So I'm just going to start a new game. I want to grab Sir Lionel, Isabella, Gadagte, and Mishizo. Because they're the ones that have starting skills. I'm definitely going to want to work through, and one of the other things that I've begun thinking about a little bit, actually, while I'm standing here, is what levels I want them to learn skills at, so I've begun filling in some of that stuff as well. But, anyway, yay, I can now start my adventure. So I'm just doing that to get music starting to play. Oh, one of the other things that I should add before I kind of go further is there's a couple of troops with bats in it. These bats only show up when it's nighttime. So there's a conditional flag here. Like they're set to appear halfway, and there's a conditional flag. If it's nighttime, then they appear. So that's a little thing that I've figured out to do that I'm pleased with. So you can see that there's now more variety in enemies. This game has loud music, so we'll see how that goes with how audible I am, because it's pretty loud. So right now, obviously, it's just starting level. They don't have that many skills available. But I do have MP Burn, which this character has MP reduction, so that's inherently making things a little cheaper. I'm going to target the Buzzkill. And of course I have the Phantom Kunai if I want it. It only deals 38 piercing damage, but it always hits, which maybe that's beneficial. Giant Rat. Oh, I'm getting a lot of lucky counterattacks. Oh, the rat got a critical hit on me. Yeah, MP Burn is a very strong spell right now, relative to skill. So I can use Guarding Strike if I want to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to attack the Giant Rat. Let's see. Yeah, she can't use any of her skills. I'm thinking I might flavor all of her spells as like shouts or something. We'll see. Is she saying something? Again, nothing to do there, so... Yep, there goes the Giant Rat. So it's not too bad, but you can see they can do some damage. I'm not quite sure where I want to put... Ooh, wow, that was enough experience to level up right away. Oh, it's nighttime. Do I get a bat encounter? No, I don't. I get double things. I'm just going to attack him. I'm going to go ahead and use Commendation, though. That one's fun. Whee! Oh, I got 2 silver combinations and 2 bronze combinations. You can kind of see that in action. It will give all of us a little bit more regen. Obviously, it doesn't matter there, because MP Burn is like able to get through a lot of these enemies. MP Burn overall is maybe a little too strong for the moment. Harrowers. Harrowers can be quite nasty if you're not focused on them. MP Burn, like, just instantly wrecks them, though. So I don't know if I need to increase the HP of some of these starting enemies or not. It's stuff that I'm going to have to figure out kind of as I go. But Harrowers are super weak to fire damage. But one of the things that you can see is, ooh, I just got counterattacked by that wasp. Is we are accumulating damage on us, so let's see. Nope, no bat encounters while it's time. I don't know how much of this to do. I'm enjoying where it's at, though. That's the thing. Even if it's not, like, great. I might want to tweak some stuff with MP Burn. Just to make it a little bit weaker, because it is a very powerful skill. So, anyway, that's, I guess, kind of where a lot of the state of this stuff is at. Yeah, take that, wasp. They're both, like, super weak. Ah, see, but they can counterattack. That makes wasps kind of dangerous. I got some level ups. So now I want to make my way to the village and heal up. Let's target this devil hen, shall we? Yeah, she's out of MP for using that. I did adjust the rate of MP regeneration from having the water stat because it was too strong. It was just making it so that way MP costs were, or MP was just regenerating way too quickly. And you can see a little bit of HP regen. That's just from having Earth. Oh, good. Critical hit that. Yeah, you can see them getting poisoned from the rat attacks. And some of the skills the wasps use inflict poison as well. So that's something that's going to make me want to make my way up here to the inn and rest. So that will have fully restored my HP and all that stuff. So that's kind of the shape of stuff. So yeah, I guess I will go ahead and exit out. I do have a save that I've been kind of playtesting stuff on where they're higher level. And you can see that like the katana is now doing like different, more greater amounts of damage and things like that. So I guess that's most of it. So I will go ahead and wrap up here. So until next time, everyone, when I will have more to report, take care and goodbye.